and I thought I would dress appropriately for both the time as well as the affair. I will not wear this silly hat all the way through this, however. My fellow managers, doesn't that sound ridiculous with this thing on it? Jeez, take it off. Our original intent for getting together today was to give you, the management of this park, the pertinent information you should have so that you can help us make this park the success we expect it to be in 1983. I hope and I trust that by the end of this afternoon's discussions by the directors, we will have accomplished that objective. I also wanted to give all of us, prior to really the peak operating week of our season, an opportunity to get to know one another, to get to know who we are, and I hope you will avail yourself of the opportunity, both here as well as after this event over at the boarding house, to begin some new relationships, to renew old acquaintances, and at the least meet the people who are important to your success this year. For we will need one another once it stops raining, and I'm sure we're going to need all the help we can get.
Ladies and gentlemen, the incredible Ms. Bette Midler.
Hello, Santa Clara, part of the Silicon Valley. Well, let me tell you something. There ain't no silicone on this girl. Not to be denied, ladies and gentlemen, that I am just overflowing with love today. It's Mr. Morrow in the house. Do you like my dress? This one's for you, sir. Your love is leading me higher than I've ever been lifted before. So keep it up, quench my desire. I'll be at your side forevermore. Your love keeps lifting me, keeps on lifting me. Your love keeps lifting me higher. Your love keeps lifting me, keeps on lifting me. Your love keeps lifting me higher. Your love keeps lifting me, keeps on lifting me. Your love keeps lifting me higher, higher. Your love keeps lifting me, keeps on lifting me. Your love keeps lifting me higher. Your love keeps lifting me, keeps on lifting me. Your love keeps lifting. Jokers, smokers, and pokers. How are you tonight? Where are you tonight? And what's your sign say? Excuse me. You're all in for some tasty treats tonight to tantalize your taste buds. All with a dash of vulgarity, sex appeal, and raunch. Not to say that I'm a professional at this, but it does run in the family. My mother was into the oldest profession in the world. She was a marketing consultant. We've got on the agenda tonight Mr. Jeff Flynn of Personnel. We all know Jeff Flynn does all the hiring here at the park. But honey, he's got a lot to learn about filling the positions. I know from personal experience,
He thinks a casting couch is something you sit on when you're fishing. Come on up here, Jeff. Go for it, honey.
All right, I will. I don't have the body that Robin has or the sex appeal, and I can't see anybody in the audience. But after that act, it's going to be very difficult to get serious here. We really should get serious, at least in between, I think, what Jim has planned for us this evening, which is going to be a surprise to everybody. And I thought what I would do this evening would be to focus a bit on the 1983 issues that come under the Personnel Department. But prior to doing that, I felt it might be interesting to review some of the statistics from 1982. Some of these statistics, in fact, really form the basis of our 1983 plan and focusing our attention on those issues in 1983. The area that impacts most of us in this room the most probably is the Employment Department. Obviously, without quality hosts and hostesses, managing our departments is much more difficult. This past year, Tony Scott and his staff screened almost 7,000 people. They interviewed about 6,300, and they hired 3,982. For those of you who think we hire every warm body that comes in the front door, if you did a little math on those statistics, you'd see that that's a rejection rate of about 33%. Some of you might think it should have been 63%. Nonetheless, having hired almost 4,000 hosts and hostesses this past year, Lella Easton and her staff in wardrobe then issued, on average, each operating day, about 1,800 pieces of costume. Those individual pieces of costumes come from an inventory of about 31,000 pieces that she rotates in daily. She and her staff rotate in daily based upon schedules, attendance, and issuing standards. Also on a daily basis, over 2,000 pounds of laundry are either dry cleaned or laundered, and approximately 100 costumes each operating day are repaired. Some of you might think that's not enough in terms of the repair, and in fact, yes, no question about it. We have some worn, faded, tattered costumes that badly need replaced. Not unlike many other elements in the park that, as a result of contingency plans, cutbacks, and cost-saving measures, that we've had to set back on some of our standards. A little later, I will mention, at least on this issue, what we have planned for 1983 and beyond. Dick McFarland and his staff in security this past year probably had more involvement in your businesses and in your departments than any previous year. They dealt with the highest levels of behavioral problems, both from guests and employees, that we've ever experienced in the history of the park. 1,300 crimes in about 180 operating days were committed, and with the exception of murder and rape, we had just about everything else in the penal code this past year. Majority of it theft. That theft resulted in about $100,000 of MGA property and dollars lost. Fortunately, about a third of that $100,000, or about $33,000, was recovered through not use of the rack or use of the rubber hose, but just good investigative techniques on the part of Dick and his staff. Last but not least, this past year, we had some involvement in the employee relations and training area. From a training standpoint, approximately 125, 150 of you in the room, plus some senior hourly leads, went through behavioral type training. It's really this last 1982 statistic, the training numbers, that I think is an appropriate segue into focusing our attention on 1983 issues. There's no doubt that the level of management training, I'm stressing management training at this point versus hourly training or basics training, must be quantitatively and qualitatively increased in 1983. Over the years, our focus has been more of an employee relations and employee recreation concentration, with really not much level of activity from really 1976 on, as best I can determine, in management training. We intend to change that in 1983 and beyond and raise management training to a much higher level of priority. To assist us in that goal, we are currently recruiting or looking for a management training specialist who will assist us in identifying functional, and I emphasize functional versus behavioral, management training needs versus the behavioral that we've done on a limited basis over the years. This person, and with the help of all of you in this room, will develop training programs that help all of us in management improve our performance in our present assignments, again from a functional standpoint, and prepare us for possible transfer and promotion. An example of one of those programs that certainly would be very valuable would be on developing a self-learning program for new members of management that ensure that basic knowledge, level of competency in park procedures, policies, and systems, and provide a vehicle for that new member of management, and we do have had a number of new managers in this past year. We need to have some sort of a self-learning vehicle that will permit them an orderly, natural involvement into our business and understand its product and product knowledge. While training is obviously very needed and it will be emphasized this next year, it can only be as effective as those of you in this room support it both from a scheduling and an attendance standpoint. We've had some difficulty in the past in getting management to attend training programs that they in fact have requested and asked for, and in fact have continuing problems even this year. Most perfect example is our public speaking course, oddly enough, appropriately enough, where we had some 25 people sign up at their request, and by the second session, 3 attend the second session. That's really unacceptable, and if we're going to elevate training to a much higher level of priority, both for yours and the business's improvement, then we must have that commitment from you when those courses are scheduled. Within the security area in 1983, our emphasis will center around increased and heightened employee awareness of internal theft. And that employee awareness, obviously, the people in this room. Over the next month or so, as an example of that tightening down and attempting to be more aware of our internal theft problems, you will see dramatic changes in the way we manage our employee egress and access points throughout the park. And as the season progresses, you will find a much more involvement on the part of security management with each of you, individually and in small groups, to help you identify potential areas of internal theft in your department and in some of your units. The potential loss of product in a business our size, there really cannot be a more important responsibility that each and every one of us should focus on in 1983. We cannot leave the magnitude of the assets in this park up to a handful of security management. It takes 170 members of management and several hundred leads and every eye and set of hands that we can to try and get a hold of this very, very serious problem it's frankly growing out of proportion. We have over the years, I would think everyone would agree, lost touch with the basic standards of employee appearance and costuming that have set this park aside and set it apart from others in our industry. There are several programs planned in this area as well in 1983 to shore up this problem. An example of that is our new Management Career Look program. Within the next several weeks, this business suit or several business suits for both male and female on-stage duty personnel, which was designed by Mark Schaffner and Marks, will be coming in, and I'm really excited about the look that we will have on stage to our guests that will, I think, dramatically professionalize Great America and have not had that kind of a look for many, many years. In addition, within the next week or two, you'll be seeing a newly formed group that we're going to appropriately call CAST, Costumes and Standards Team. And the purpose or mission of this group will be to audit grooming and costuming standards and to assist us to try and return standards in this park back to what they were in the mid-70s. Also, by year end, we hope to have a 5-year plan for themed costumes approved and, if not implemented, at least a schedule posted so that we can begin to replace some of those 5- and 6-year costumes like Yankee Harbor in particular, that have long outworn their useful life. Last but not least, in the employment area, which is the area that we started with, we must continue to improve and upgrade our selection and interviewing standards. We must ensure ourselves that we are attracting the best possible candidate from the labor market that's currently available for us. We recognize the need to involve departmental management in those interviewing selection processes. Yet, we must maintain, and we will maintain, the efficiencies of the current program that we have. Those efficiencies translate to save dollars. By the end of the year, we will have come up with some recommendations and designed a program that will retain those efficiencies that we currently have, yet involve departmental management in the very important process of hiring their employees. These are just a few of the key areas in personnel that we will begin focusing our attention on in 1983, and they represent some of the programs that you can look forward to over the weeks and months ahead. I guess just in closing, I'm convinced that we can return this park to standards that were prevalent in 1976, 1977, and do that in a very profitable fashion. Thank you. Where's Robin?
Thank you, Jeff. We have Tom Humphreys, Director of Park Services. Tom, I hear it's been raining. They're building an ark backstage here in Theatre Royale. All I want to say, honey, is I want to be first in line. I want to get them on 2 by 2. All I have to say, honey, is if your ship don't sail, maintain, baby, maintain. Tom?
Thank you. Boy, I thought the entertainment was later. Park Services has changed over the years, as some of the other departments have. We've taken on responsibilities, and we've passed on some responsibilities to other departments. At the present time, we'll share with you, not being able to see you folks out there is difficult. There's Jeff. Okay. We've got several new members of management on our staff this year. And I'd like to share with you at this time Ray Harpel, who is the new safety administrator. I believe Ray is still out there. Ray, if you'd stand up for just a second. All of you eventually will get to know Ray. You may be running in a direction away from Ray, but he will get to know all of you. His goal is to improve our safety performance in the park, both backstage and on stage. And with his staff, Carol Catlett and John Quintanilla, we're looking forward to a year with many improvements in that area. In the area of technical services, which consist of ride mechanics, vehicle mechanics, electronics for both shows and games repair, electrical department, and our tool crib and spare parts department. Pat Christensen is the manager of that area, and I think most of you probably know Pat. He's been in that position for a few months now. Working with him, John Bronson, an electronics supervisor, Steve Jeffries, the electrical supervisor, Joe Endorado and Ray Almanza will be sharing the mechanical area, vehicle shop, and tool crib. In the buildings and grounds department, we've got Dave Clements, who has been on the job a few months as manager. With his department, mill shop, paint shop, and staff shop will be under the direction of Jeff Joseph. Plumbing department will be under the direction of Mike Saavedra. And our landscape department, Greg Thomas. The janitorial department, Sylvia Young, who has just been in that position for a couple of weeks now. We have a lot of new management people within our area, and we'll be looking forward to working with all of you and looking for help from all of you to accomplish our goals. The park, through the past few years, through contingency plans and whatnot, has deteriorated somewhat. Some areas quite a bit. We weren't ready for the rain this year. But we are going to bring the park back up to a reasonable standard as quickly as possible. We've added additional painters to our staff. We're going to add additional carpenters to our staff. Jeff, you're not aware of that yet. We have painted a lot this winter, even with the rain, since we closed in 1st of January. And we have a lot of additional areas to paint. Some of them are your offices, some of the backstage areas, and still some on-stage areas. Some of the major areas that we do want to tackle will be the railroad, the trains, Sky Whirl, in addition with all the other building fronts, some offices and whatnot in the backstage break areas. We've got another department which we've just taken on some responsibility with, and that's the construction engineering department with Jeff Whitman as manager. All of you have worked with Jeff over the years, and we're very pleased to have him on board with us at this time. In Jeff's area, one of our goals will be to develop a capital planning program within that department so that we can review and set priorities for capital projects on a more realistic nature than what we've had in the past. We plan to start working with you folks earlier in the game and be better prepared with more realistic estimates for those projects that we are going to take on. Elsewhere in our department, we plan to improve our productivity through uses of new types of equipment, better paint spray equipment. We're looking at a system that we've just ordered that will allow us to paint iron not queue lines, but iron fencing from one side, and the paint theoretically is supposed to wrap around and grab it all the way around. We do a lot of various chores that most of you folks probably are not aware of. We are a city. From our viewpoint, we have everything from the sewer system to the electrical distribution systems. Without pumps, we would be flooded in this park. We pump our water out of the park. We pump our sewage out of the park. We have electrical feeds from 2 different locations into the park, distributed through 10 switchboard rooms. Some of you have learned what the word ground fault means when you've had a whole area shut down in an operating day, and it's very embarrassing. We're attempting to alleviate all those types of problems. We will be improving our quality control approach, and we will be doing that with some systems which we'll be calling on some of you folks to help us on committees to determine those areas that are most important to our guest, with a long-term goal of improving the overall quality to the guest. We have a few problems that confront us today. Rain is a major problem, and some of the side effects are roof leaks. Pleased to announce to some of you out there that we've corrected Skedaddle's roof leaks this week in the boarding house. We hope. We found 4 leaks on the boarding house and 2 or 3 on Skedaddle. We are operating at this time with 10% fewer man hours than we had in 1980. Looking forward to an equal amount of work with the productivity improvements through manpower utilization and better equipment. The good news is we have the edge this year, and it will be on time. We've got a artist rendering that we'd like to show to you at this time. I'm sure most of you probably have seen a picture of the edge in one form or another, but this one has not been in circulation yet, so if you're able to see that from where you're at, but after this show is over, the picture will be available for you to look at. There are some trees in that photograph that we will not be able to develop in this short period of time. In the area of landscaping, you've seen a lot of improvements in the last year in the area that Greg has worked with. And this year we're going to try to achieve bringing back our parking lot areas and our perimeter of the park so that guests get a good impression when they arrive from the street. It's going to take some hard work on everybody's part. Last point I'd like to make is we need help from everybody to help reduce the amount of abuse in the park. Every time there's a hole kicked in a piece of sheetrock, it takes about 1 second for that to happen and takes 3 or 4 hours to correct it. I think it's safe to assume that we spend about 5% of our time just correcting damage created by our own employees. Eyes and ears from all of you can help reduce that down to a more manageable amount. I thank you.
Tom, you know those 10% fewer man hours you were talking about? Well, send them on over to Escape My Land. We've got Rob Lyons, Director of Finance. He's the new kid in town. I guess you'd say he was GA's new bean counter. Before the end of the season, I'm sure he'll become very close to our hearts. Ooh. And our pocketbooks. Come on up here, Rob.
A little bit hard for finance department to follow that kind of routine, and for the most part, finance is a pretty mundane function at the amusement park, and in many ways is one of the reasons why I was attracted to come to work at Great America, because so much of the time the finance responsibilities are just so boring and you kind of do it for a living, but you don't have much fun doing it, that it was really a fantastic opportunity to come and work at the operational level, and I've really been enjoying it. I've been here for 6 weeks, and in many ways it seems like it's been 6 months, but it's really been a fun 6 months. The good news is that the budget process is now over. Unfortunately, the bad news is that the first budget review will be tomorrow. I've been very impressed with the management people that I've met here, both at the director level and at the manager and supervisory level here. We're going to have a tremendous amount of pressure this year from the group and the corporate staff within the Marriott organization to focus in on profit and loss and cost savings and whatnot, and that I think it's going to be very important for me to get to know a lot about the individual departments and operations. And I would ask all of you, I've met a lot of you already, but that I plan on spending a lot of time walking through the parks, getting involved in departmental meetings and whatnot. And I'd encourage you to, come and say hello to me whenever you can, to introduce yourself, and I just want to let you know that I'm interested in knowing as much about the park as possible. And to a certain extent, I think that the finance function should be seen as a consultant, as someone to kind of help you solve your problems up front, rather than perhaps the traditional view of finance as someone to be concerned about, as someone that's going to be raising questions and kind of give you more problems rather than helping you solve some of the problems you already have. 1983 for the finance department, and particularly since I've joined the finance department, is going to be a year of reevaluation of where finance fits into the whole park structure. There are two main, I guess, reasons that the finance department exists here at the park. And one is the control function, which I think pretty much is generally understood in terms of the accounting and the cash control areas. But another area that I don't think finance department has always given enough attention to, and that is the service function that we perform. And that, I guess you could look at as the data processing function as well as the purchasing area. And that we really want to make a lot of progress this year in having you view finance as someone that's here. Yes, we have to help you control the business and monitor and report to corporate about certain financial issues, but that there are certain areas, I think, in finance where we want to make sure that you see us as a department that's trying to help you run the park as well as we possibly can. I'd like to go over specifically some of the areas in the finance department that we're going to be seeing some changes this year. And I'd start off with the accounting department that is headed by Randy Whitney, and that we will be going through in that area a complete revision of the monthly review process. And that what we're really trying to do is all of the managers, supervisors, and directors of the different departments each month try to put together their comparison of actual results with the budget and whatnot, that we're trying to give you more direction and perhaps some detailed guidelines and standardized forms so that you can really get an idea of what we're looking for, and at the same time start a feedback process where instead of finance raising certain questions, saying, well, why aren't you doing it this way, to have you participate in the process. One of the things Hal and I got into was traditionally you want to compare how you're doing this year compared to last year. And I think too often we get caught in that mold. What are we doing this year? What did we do last year? And Ham brought up a good point. Well, promotions are totally different this year. How can you possibly ask me to explain it compared to last year? And I think, those are the kind of things where maybe the finance guys and the people at corporate are so tuned into the approach of compared to last year, compared to the year before, that I want to make sure that in the process of evaluating how this business is being run, that we get your feedback. If you think there's a better way to do it, I'd like to hear from all of you any suggestions that you have. As part of this careful review we're going to be getting from the group and corporate staff, we've got a new project here that I think a lot of the directors and managers will be involved in as we progress through the season, and that is the weekly forecast system. So here we're just finished doing our annual budget, and the next thing that's going to be coming up is a weekly forecast. And it'll be more critical if we end up having bad luck during the Easter season, and it'll be less critical if we really start off, with a great Easter season and go above the budget and, continue to stay at that point. As I'm sure all of you are aware that when companies are doing well, people that own the companies tend to find, other areas to focus their attention on. and that the best way to avoid, the serious problems, and from what I understand, the whole disaster of constantly having to be in a contingency planning mode and whatnot, is to, have some good weather and be able to get the people in here and get ahead of budget and stay there. And I hope we're going to be able to do that because, quite frankly, as much as it's difficult for all of you to have to run through the budgets and whatnot, it's not much fun for finance department to have to sit in those meetings and, explain why we are not where we're supposed to be. Some of the other things in the accounting area that I'd like to talk about that are going to help the business this year is the new account receivable computerized system that I think will help marketing and will help some other areas as far as knowing where we stand with our accounts and ability to generate cash for the company. We have a new payroll system, which I think will probably make employment processing easier, and will also have some benefits for the park as a whole. Another thing that we're trying to do is institute, and we are going through the final processes right now, of a new approval authorization policy. And the point of that is to eliminate the need for the directors to approve every single invoice and every single payment that's made in the park, and get it down to the manager level, where we reflect the fact that it's the managers that are really the key factor in the running of the park. And it's a little bit crazy that in the past we've had the attitude that here they have primary responsibility for running, a $40 million business, and yet we don't allow them to approve any of our invoices or make any commitments for the company. So that's something I think is going to go a long way towards, making you feel that you have the financial responsibility for running this park. And the fact of the matter is, it's probably going to help the accounting department from the point of view of we're going to get less vendor phone calls wondering why the bills haven't been paid when they're sitting in some director's inbox. The last thing I really want, as far as the accounting department portion of this whole thing, is to let you know that Randy Whitney is someone who is a really sharp accountant and really a sharp financial guy, and that I wish all of you would feel free to give him a call whenever you have any problems in the finance area and you need some consultation, because that's what we want to do, is provide the support that you need to make any of the business decisions that you need to make. Another area that I'd like to talk about is data processing, and Charlie Idarola. It's kind of an interesting thing about Great America coming in here, that in many ways it's a more professional organization than other amusement parks I've seen. I think one of the big holes that we have in the whole management area is the way that we're using computers. And recently, Dave Whiteman made the comment that when he came in here, it was with a view towards the fact that if within 5 years we were not using computers, and if the directors and managers did not have a computer terminal on their desk and at their disposal, he would not be feeling like we were going to be able to properly run the business. And I would concur with that, just from the point of view of, as I walked in the door and inherited the position that I'm taking over, I couldn't believe the number of computer reports that I got. I couldn't understand a lot of the computer reports, and it just made a tremendous amount of filing and record keeping that just seems unnecessary. And that we've made the first step this year by buying some new hardware and some new software, that by the end of the year we are going to be having in certain key areas like retail, computer terminals. We're going to be able to have online input and online output, so that you people will be able to have more immediate information, and I think therefore be able to run your business that much more effectively. In addition to what they call the BOSS 3 system and the Look 4 systems, we're also trying to work very quickly and with a lot of energy in the whole area of MRS enhancements, and try to do something with that system, because historically MRS and GAS, these are the reports that supposedly we're going to be running the business with, and so often they're just filled with errors, and they've got such inaccurate information that every department's kind of doing their scratch sheet and running the business based on that kind of approach rather than the way it's supposed to be run. So we're trying to put a lot of energy towards that, and hopefully we'll be seeing some benefits before the end of the year in that area. The one other area in data processing that I think will contribute a lot to the park, and I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to get into it and make a substantial improvement before the season's over, but that is a whole new point of sale system that will come into the park and will replace kind of the NCR variety of equipment we have, along with its problems that it seems like we've done pretty well this year with, but that historically have caused a lot of headaches. Cash control, Lester Remhoff, that's really an area that is pretty solid, and there isn't a heck of a lot new to say about what's going on in that area this year. They're certainly making substantial contribution already in terms of working with retail and kind of trying to eliminate the over and shorts in cash, and he's working very hard at reducing labor costs and whatnot. And I guess the thing that I would say about Lester is that he and his staff are kind of becoming my mini computer experts, the way that Tony Scott in personnel is. And to the extent any of you have an interest in getting involved with microcomputers and that whole area, I'd encourage you to talk to Lester and some of the people in his area, because I think we're developing a really fine resource there. Jerry Dumas is in charge of the purchasing function, and coming in here, there were a couple areas in the purchasing function that I think we need to address, and we're going to be having some changes in, and that is specifically the mailroom and the copier problems we have in the park, as well as the whole issue about the print shop. And that I think one of the things that I want all of you to be aware of is that, I'm a believer in the fact that the print shop, the copier function, the mailroom, and all of that, those things can't operate in a vacuum, and we can't just be doing our own thing there. That the print shop is definitely here, first and foremost, to help the park, and to the extent we can get some extra business from Hawaii or some of the other Marriott businesses, that's great, but that I think there's been kind of a misunderstanding about where the print shop's priorities are, and that will be a situation I think you'll see corrected during the next couple months. Some of the other things I'd just like to mention as far as goals that we have and things that you'll be seeing coming down the road from finance, and that is we'll be working on models for the break-even analysis. We'll be doing reviews of capital projects and the marketing promotions. We'll be looking very closely at inventory levels, receivable levels, and spare parts inventory levels. We're trying to sell some of the excess equipment we have in the park, and they'll soon be going around a memo that will be asking you to take another look and see if you've got excess equipment around that hasn't been totally cannibalized already, that perhaps we could sell to someone. And in general, I guess, as much as, we can't help but have a very, very straight image relative to a lot of other departments in the park, I'd like '83 to be a year when finance kind of loosens up its image a little bit here, and that we kind of are brought into the mainstream of the park operations. Last but certainly not least, I'd like to touch on some of the financial information contained in the '83 budget, and just report to you where we stand and what exactly we're looking for in terms of 1983 results of operations. We are budgeting an attendance figure of $2,020,000, which is a 15% increase over last year. We are budgeting a revenue figure of $41 million, which is a 16% increase over last year. We are budgeting controllable expenses at $31 million, which is an 8% increase over last year. I guess most importantly, we're budgeting a $1.3 million profit compared to an over $3 million loss last year. So we are looking towards tremendous progress compared to 1982, and the way that we plan on achieving that goal is primarily through the marketing effort and the attendant increases in attendance. We are planning on increasing per capitas over 40 cents, despite the fact that we've had a $2 price rollback at the front gate. So I think that in itself is self-explanatory as the kind of challenge that retail has before them in that area, as well as the continued process of trying to control costs, reduce waste, and increase productivity, which is probably kind of an old song and dance you've heard for the last 2 years, given all the contingency planning that we've done. And I guess what it really comes down to, there's probably not a lot of progress we're going to be able to make in that area, and that I've already kind of informed a group that if in fact they want us to go into a contingency mode, there is really nowhere to take anything from. So that you can understand that we certainly have a challenging year in front of us. It's an aggressive budget, but it's one that, you know, I think we all feel like it's doable, but it's just going to be a continuing process to try to keep ahead of the weather and the other factors that tend to give us our problems. Thank you.
We've got Hamp Howell, our Director of Marketing. Since Hamp came to GA, he's become an extensive world traveler. One of his most successful trips that comes to mind was that one he took to the Orient. Hamp, honey, we're still waiting for the yellow tide to come in. Come on up here.
No silicone, huh? Well, I know you all are out there, and many of you are probably thinking, there's the asshole who does the coupons. Yeah, I know. I heard that, Merle. Unfortunately, for us in marketing, we tend to be somewhat faceless individuals until there is a problem. And however, we in the marketing department are people, and we happen to have a very good, dedicated staff of people. And our challenge, as Rob indicated this year, is quite a large one. We have to take attendance up to 2,020,000 off a year, which was disappointing for all of us. However, we have a good group of people to assist us in doing that. We have George Boucher, who heads our promotions department. He brings you such good things as Easter week as a circus, July 4th with fireworks, Oktoberfest with beer and brats, among other things. We have Judy Hadfield in public affairs, who help publicize the park and keep us in good stead with our media and community friends. We have Rosemary Prodzic, who works in relations with our sponsors and helps bring us new sponsors. And we have a new group sales manager this year, Bob Marquardt, who has joined us just this week from General Foods, and he has the unenviable task of drawing about 45%, or about 900,000 of the people to the park, and he's got quite a fine staff to assist him in doing that. And so far, the progress toward our 1983 goal in the group sales area has been very, very strong. We've worked long and hard at putting together a good plan for this year. We feel that the park product is as good as it's ever been. It looks, despite the weather, better than it ever has. We have new shows such as the Bugs Bunny Las Vegas Review and the Music Hall. We have good new special events such as a circus for Easter week. We have new pricing, which Rob alluded to, taking not only our front gate price back from $13.95 to $11.95, but we've also strategically repriced our group program so that we're able to sell more volume to our groups. And as Tom Humphreys mentioned, we have a new ride, The Edge. One thing we have yet to do is to communicate this to all of our publics, and I thought that you might like to see and hear some examples of our media. We have, first of all, a radio execution which is targeted at teens for Easter week, in addition to the circus for Easter week, which is targeted to children and adults. We also have, George is also bringing in numerous rock bands, and we have an execution which is targeted to teens on that. So, Wayne?
Arthur, this is Mr. Timmons from Marriott's Great America.
Hi, Arthur.
Arthur does sound effects here at the studio, sir.
Arthur, we'd like a commercial announcing Great America's Circus Week. From March 26th through April 3rd. The big news is we've rolled back the price by $2. Now it's just $11.95. All during Circus Week, you'll hear the best of the Bay Area bands, like Hush, Chaser, The Kids, and many more, all for just $11.95. Plus 3 live circus shows daily. Animals, clowns, jugglers, plus the best of the Bay Area bands, just $11.95. Daily, March 26th through April 3rd at Great America. Oh, he's weird.
Weird?
Don't you think he's weird?
I think he's a beautiful human being.
Oh, that's yours.
Radio is used because it's an affordable media to generate a good deal of frequency against our target audience. Obviously, in addition to that, we have numerous other radio spots, but that's one we just received this morning. I thought you might like to hear. In addition, we'll be producing over the next month our television commercials. These are traditionally very well done, and we do have just in storyboard form, and I don't know if many of you have ever seen a storyboard format, but it's the kind of the origin of a television commercial from which the creative people present to us, the client, and then from which the production company scripts and then casts and ultimately produces the spot. We have, as in radio, we also target our television media to specific audiences, and we happen to have today 3 different targeted communications. The first are 2 which are against the new ride, which are obviously targeted toward teenagers. The next is a children's spot, which, while somewhat talking to children, also talks to their parents. And the last 2 are 2 new and very creative adult spots. So the first is called Edge Watchers, if you'll watch the screen. These are 4 tough guys, and the script goes something like this, and I'll try to read through it. They're waiting in line for the edge. The ticket, not the ticket taker, but the attendant at the ride goes, "Okay, you guys are next in line for the edge." And the guys say, "All right, we're next." And guy number 1 goes, "Up they go." Piece of cake. Now, all this time, the camera stays in place as the ride goes up. "Observe how it's done," one cool guy says. Camera stays in place, and you can hear the whir of the ride going up in the background. Then a voiceover comes up. "Some people who go over the edge." Ah. I've never been a good screamer. Next slide. "Are never the same again. They are all white, head to toe." The Edge at Marriott's Great America, the longest 2.5 seconds in the world. That will actually, that spot will obviously have to be produced elsewhere. In fact, down at Magic Mountain, which has a similar attraction. But that should be popular. One thing you also have to worry about when you do a commercial like that, you have to worry about wear out. And so there's a second commercial execution being done, which is similar in tone and also targeted the same to teens. And this is a group of people who are sitting around waiting, and it starts off pretty much the same. It says, "Okay, you guys are next in line for the edge." And they go, "All right." Sounds pretty similar so far, doesn't it? And then from that point, their heads kind of lock into place, and they just watch the ride go up. And you can hear just the sound effects in the background, and then there's a hush, and then screams as the ride goes down, and the people's heads go down with the ride and then out. However, thank you. However, one guy's head is still absolutely permanently locked into place looking at the top of the ride. And a voiceover comes on. This is as close as most people ever want to get to the edge. The edge at Marriott's Great America. The longest 2.5 seconds in the world. These communications were tested in focus groups, informal focus groups, to teenagers, and they retained some of the key copy points, such as the longest 2.5 seconds in the world. And it seems to be among the things that we showed them. It looks as if it'll be very, very popular. Next is the kid communication, which I said works both the kids and their parents. And this is called Terrible Terrific. And the little girls are playing on a swing or somewhere in their backyard, and the first girl says, "They strapped me into this bucket," and cut to a scene of the girl at the ride on one of the flat rides we have. And the girl number 2 goes, "Who? Where?" "At Great America." "So then this bucket starts spinning so fast I can't even see." And the second girl says, "Ooh, that's awful." And the girl number 1 goes, "No, it was wonderful." And then I'm way up high and zoom down this gigantic chute, twisting and bumping and water all over. Second girl goes, "That's terrible." Girl number 1 goes, "No, it was terrific." The terrible part was, second girl says, "Yeah, we had to go home." And the voiceover comes on, "Have the terrible, terrific time of your life at Great America." And there's also a second execution very similar with young boys. Probably the most difficult audience you have to address are parents, and specifically Dad. The chairman of our agency once said he'd rather be in a car wreck than go to a theme park. There is a reluctance on the part of a father to come to a park because it takes a day where he might be doing something else, and it takes money for which where he might use it elsewhere. But as you look at, and as we tested different reasons for people coming to the park, be it special attractions or to host people from out of town or to gather up people in the neighborhood and go, it came back more often than not, especially communicating to dads, that they do it because of a sense of responsibility to be a good parent and to do it for their family. And so these communications are targeted explicitly to a father, although you'll obviously see that they work well against the whole family, to just give them a little tinge of feeling and reinforcement as to why he should and might go to Great America. You'll notice these are not set at the park. The first one is just called Dad 1. And Dad's looking out the window with his bathrobe on, and it's a beautiful day, and he says, "What a day for golf." And he looks at the camera and he goes, "No, we're going to Great America." And then there's a kind of a bit that's going to be used on these commercials that at that point, Mom turns around and goes, and there's this new, Jesus. There's new music, and it's a song, and I'm not going to sing it. If I don't scream well, I certainly don't sing well. But the words go something like this, and the whole family sings it, and at the same time, the MGA marching band parades in the house, and just all heck breaks loose. And the words go something like this: "You made our day, you made us glad, we're proud to have you for our dad." We pay an awful lot for those lyrics. And then the chorus comes in, "You're a great American, taking us here again, great American Dad." And just the whistle again. And it reinforces the decision at the point of the decision. Now that commercial will probably wear out in about a day. So there are a couple of more, and we got the slides on the second one. Second one's very similar. Guy's outside, a neighbor calls over, "Hey, Greg, got 2 tickets to the game." And the guy says, "Thanks, Lynn, but we're going to Great America." And he turns to the camera and goes, "Great America!" Cue the song. At this point, characters, marching band, probably the dolphin. Come through the house, and you made our day all together. You made us glad. We're proud to have you for our dad. You're a great American, taking us there again. Great American Dad. John Cougar will probably not sing this song, but it's an excellent and well-targeted execution against the strategy of getting dads and reinforcing his decision to visit. There's a third one, which is, as this one wears out about a week later, a third one called Cul-de-sac, and on this one, it's a nice, peaceful morning, kind of a Steven Spielberg mist over the cul-de-sac, and all you hear is this, and a marching band goes from one house to the next, and another whistle, and the band goes from another house to the next, and it just reinforces the fact that people all over are making the decision to go to Great America, which is something that we certainly hope will happen. We do have a challenge in front of us, both in sales, promotions, publicity, sponsors. One of the first things that's going to come up is Easter week, and we thought we'd give you a little feeling of one of the acts that's going to be here. We have dozens of mimes, jugglers, clowns, in addition to the circus. And so we have with us today Jonathan Longjeans, who is a little bit of all these things, to give you a sample of what we're going to have Easter week. Mr. Longjeans. Get that spot up. There it is. Well, just to wrap up, we hope that you will get to know the people in the marketing department. They're a good group of people. They genuinely care about the park, selling the product, and we will need and we solicit your support in helping make this an excellent year. Thank you very much.
Honey, I just heard you were leaving us. Marriott has graciously asked me to pick up the bill he's left behind. My number is 555-3131. We now have Merle Barber, Director of Retail Sales. I know from personal experience that Merle has an ear for music, because, honey, we've made some beautiful music together. But just when my notes start to ring, Mel mistakes it for a cash register and jumps up to make a sale. Come up here, Merle.
I tell you, I'm in trouble. Not only do I have to follow Hamp, I have no chickens. I have, maybe I should, Merle, what's the per cap going to be? Hell, I don't know. Maybe we should do that. About 4:30 this afternoon, something happened that you're all going to be very happy about. I lost every one of my notes. On top of that, I don't know about you, but I am absolutely freezing to death. And I know we've got some things planned for a little bit later, so I am going to be brief. In the beginning, God created root beer, and we went on from there. All joking aside, in 1983, the retail sales department will be responsible for delivering some $22 million in sales during our 149-day operating season. Approximately 1.2 million of those sales this year are going to be generated out of some new areas, as well as some areas that for the first time we'll see a full year's operation in. Within food operations, the Picnic Grove this year is going to play a very important part in the overall achievement of our per cap. As Hamp said earlier, it is challenging. We're looking forward to the challenge. And also, too, this year we spent quite a bit of AE money in rehabbing that grove, as well as getting the service capacity up from what it was previously. This year, for the first time, too, we will see a full year of service at the Burger Barn at Farmers Market, as well as I think this year we'll also see the fruits of the changes that we did at Harbor Inn, as well as Yeoman's Grill, and for those of you that get into Kid Kingdom, Elmer Fudd's Food Factory. Thank you. Also, too, last year, as you know, we removed a number of kiosks from the park. Not a number of them, they all disappeared. And as a reaction to that, last year we did, I think probably by the 1st of June, we had a number of vendor carts out in the park. This year, we are going to reintroduce 3 major, or what we call super kiosks in the foods department, to try and replace some of what we feel were lost sales. Also, too, as I said, the vendor carts will also see a full year's service. We also introduced a new restaurant in Farmers Market called Just Desserts. For those of you that remember the Belgian waffle as well as the fried ice cream ball, those are now back with us again. In games and arcades, we spent quite a bit of money on a new game called Super Shifter. For those of you that have not had a chance to go out and see that, it's a heck of a game. It really is. We, last year in Gurnee, I believe the per cap at the end of the year on that was around 5.5 cents. First 2 days of operation, first 2.5 days of operation that we have seen out of that unit has, we're very encouraged by what we see. I think we did a 10.5 cent per cap one day and something over 6 cents the second day. We're also going to do something at the entrance to the Games Gallery, a little bit different than last year. We have grouped all of the whack-a-mole units together there, and we're going to offer a prize for that game. It's a very popular game, and we do have some new whack-a-mole units to go in there with the existing units that we have in the park at this point. The Atari Arcade, what can I say? It was just a hell of an idea, and I think for those of you that have been out in the arcade itself, I don't think there's another arcade in the area that can hold a candle to it. If you haven't had a chance to visit the Atari Retail Center, I would suggest you do. It's, again, a work of art. We also, too, I understand the bids have been let on Phase 3 of that project, and a few of us had an opportunity to go over to Atari and see, again, some of their storyboards that they had done concerning that Phase 3 operation. And I think all of you will be well pleased with what has happened there. this year, too, we've taken a very bold step and have converted all of our, or most of our arcade machines at this point to a token conversion system. We feel at this point it's a little too early to rate as to what type of reaction we're getting out of that, whether it's increasing play or not, but we did take the safe way out. Rather than go strictly with token conversion 100%, you're able to put either a quarter or a token in there at this point, so we're able to generate revenue in both ways. In addition to those changes, I think the most important thing I think that we've done in retail this year is I think we listened to the marketing reports and the surveys that were done last year throughout the park. We did not, within the retail department, where at all possible, we did not increase prices this year. We did not go back and identify our top 10 best sellers and just automatically take them up. We worked very, very closely with corporate procurement and our regional procurement people to try and keep our raw food cost products in line price-wise, so that we would not have to pass that price increase onto the guest in the park. Also, too, as Jeff related earlier, there has been a tremendous emphasis this year throughout the retail department on training our hostesses, as well as spending quite a bit of time management-wise with the supervisor training. Also, too, this year for the first time in the cashiering area, we also took Jim O'Brien's auditing people and gave them the function of making sure that we had trained cashiers prior to the time we ever sent them out to the units. We feel that this is going to be, I mean, we just can't help but be better and quicker and more control-wise, emphasis-wise. It's just got to improve. We're also encouraging our hostesses this year to interact with the guests in a very positive manner, whether it be at a service window, whether it be in a shop, whether it be at the front of a game. We're also taking a look at what exactly our people are saying to these guests. Randy and myself and Peter had a long conversation just a few days ago concerning the noise level at the games area in the back of the park. Is it noise, or is it in fact something that is geared towards the guest? Is the guest responding to that? These are things that we're doing to make sure that we get better interaction with the guest. We have developed, as I said, within the merchandise department, a number of new products. We're looking at better packaging there, how we present the product, and also, too, we realize that the meat and potatoes of our business within merchandise is in the souvenir business, but we can't lose track of what Hamp is trying to do here. He's trying to get the family in. He's trying to get Dad in. He's trying to get that older guest. And we, too, have geared our buying, too. We don't want to take the theme out of Great America. We want to see themed shops out there that are good revenue-producing areas. And we will channel our efforts to increase the presentation and also to bring the product out to the adult that in fact he or she may be looking for as well. We can't continue in this park to put all of our eggs into one basket, that being souvenirs. After a while, that begins to become old hat to the people that keep coming back to the park. Also, too, in Jim O'Brien's area and also throughout all of retail, we have strengthened the controls within our various departments to ensure that every possible dime is dropped to the bottom line. As I said, I was going to be brief, and I am. In conclusion, I feel very optimistic about 1983. I do feel that the recent economic indicators point to a general upswing in the economy. I think if the weatherman, and I'm sure he will cooperate, I feel that the Retail Sales Operating Department is ready to provide good guest service and also a fair price-value relationship for its product. Again, I look forward to working with all of you in 1983 to make our park a success and a good place to work. Thank you.
Next, we have Bob Woodruff, Director of Park Operations. You all know that Bob is always putting up a stink about the band members wearing white shoes. Woody, you left your white shoes under my bed last weekend. And by the way, how come you never call me? Since Saturday night. Come on up here and talk to these people since you won't talk to me.
I should be so fortunate.
By the way, you forgot these too.
Thank you. Just my size.
Thanks, honey.
Thank you. There's no business like show business. Not only is Robin a tough act to follow, but so are my fellow directors. I think they've demonstrated to you tonight, and they've certainly convinced me, that they're the right people for the job. They're sincere, they're dedicated, they're committed to the product and to the organization. Being fairly new myself to the park, I am extremely pleased to participate in this all-management meeting. I have a very high regard for our park, our product, and most importantly, the individuals in this theater tonight. I can only echo what several others have said, that I would like to make sure that I have the time to meet and interact with all of you. I have not had that opportunity yet. Since my joining the park in mid-December, I have been warmly received, however, and made to feel welcome. And for that, believe me, I thank you. I want to especially thank the park operations management staff for their support and welcome. Both Kent Mitchell and Matt Schliessman have outstanding staffs that have impressed me with their knowledge, their professionalism, as well as their commitment to do the job. I suppose some of you who are fairly new to the company or new to the park wonder what park operations is. I oftentimes ask Jim to redefine it for me. I think the conclusion we came to is that park operations is just one of 6 departments. It can probably be best described as an onstage, non-revenue producing department with the direct responsibility for guest entertainment and attraction value. Some of the goals that we will participate in this year, and park operations is sometimes a department that truly is involved with the entire park. Some of the goals that we will work towards this year will be to complement what Hamp is trying to do in his staff, is to improve repeat business by establishing a more responsive guest comment program, improved guest in-park surveys conducted by park personnel this year versus outside personnel, and implementing policies and procedures that are less restrictive to the guest. Oftentimes, I think we have such a high image of ourselves that we're afraid to say yes. In essence, I think our goal this year in park operations, and in particular the admission services department, is to don't have a single guest that leaves unhappy or at least dissatisfied with the resolution to a concern or complaint. A second goal that we'll work towards this year will be to re-examine the reconfiguration plan with emphasis on improving labor sales ratio resulting in unit profitability, determining current unit level of efficiencies, future examination of capacity issues, and determine methods
for whatever reconfiguration plan we do come up with that will be self-funded. Other goals will be to determine other sources of revenue available to the park. Marketing and retail sales are each doing $20 million plus, but I think there are other avenues available to us. I hope that each and every one of you out there this evening might have some ideas, but we're looking to increase revenue in such areas as the use of our facilities during non-operating hours, be they during the week and weekend operation, during the off-season, or perhaps before or after we close. One of our valuable resources are the 100 or so people sitting in this auditorium tonight. How do we market our management skills? What types of services can we provide other institutions, other companies, other ventures? World's fairs. What are the opportunities available to us in park operations? What about our parking pricing? Is there something we can do there? What about attraction pricing? Disney just went away from charging for each individual unit. Maybe we should go to it. What about the gasoline station? What about the kennel? What about complimentary tickets? What about the visiting band program? What about charging for buses? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are avenues that need to be explored, and I think there are some opportunities available to us. Another goal that we have will be to identify and develop just what our product is. What is Marriott's Great America? What was it when we opened in '76? What is it in '83? And what will it be by the time our long-term plan runs out in 1988 or 1989? What is the value of theming? A lot of us talk about service standards, quality control, theming. What is the value of theming? Does the guests care or don't they? What is the mix, the proper mix between ride and show attraction? What about the decision process to add or delete a ride, to add or delete street entertainment, show entertainment? What is the value of promotional entertainment? What is the value of street entertainment? What is the proper show mix that we need? And more importantly, perhaps, is what is our operating philosophy? What are the procedures that we need to run our business by? And how do we change them if we don't like them? So I think we need to find out just what we are so we can communicate that to the guest as well as be committed to that ourselves and consequently be able to train the employees. We certainly need to continue, Ray, to improve our guest safety performance. Last year, this park had an excellent performance due to a large degree to your success. However, it's something that we can continue to improve. It's a cost, unfortunately, that comes off the bottom line. So we need to reduce and improve both guest and employee safety. We need to examine and recommend changes that will allow us to achieve and maintain a guest value of 1.3 rides and attractions per hour during peak hours during design days. Some of those are new standards. Some of you who attend daily PARCOM meetings realize that we try to do anywhere from 10 to 12 rides and admissions, and we consider that a pretty good day. We're finding out that that standard may indeed have been somewhat distorted over the years. What we're talking about is a design day. What can this park comfortably accommodate? What is a design hour? How many people can ride a ride or see a show or participate in an attraction? If we can maintain a 1.3 rides and attractions per hour standard during a design day, we know that we're given a good priced guest value relationship. I think Shakespeare's approach to life best typifies our operating procedure when he said all the world's a stage and we're but actors on it. I think all of MGA is a stage. I think one of the operating philosophies we want to operate under is that MGA is the stage. Everyone and everything else, staff and guest alike, are supporting actors. Within the last 3 months, a lot of serious consideration has been given by both parks as well as group staff to examining the issues of capacity and service. During the 1982 season, we received 1,009 comments regarding our operation. When I mean a comment, that means a letter, a phone call, or a written guest services report. Of those 1,009 comments, 844 were complaints, 129 compliments, and 36 suggestions. Those 36 were to lower the food prices. No, that's not true. No doubt that some decisions that were made last year resulted in the increase in complaints from the 1981 level of 554. No doubt, too, that perhaps our attitude, our policies, and perhaps our actions contributed to this increase. During 1982, for example, 51 complaints dealt with closed units or units that closed early. That is an issue that we have to resolve. That's an issue that we have to manage. There's room for improvement in all of the operating departments. 43 complaints dealt with employee attitude. We shouldn't have one damn single complaint that deals with employee attitude. We really shouldn't. That's 43 too high. 279 for procedural and service-oriented problems. There's room for improvement in our policies and the service that we provide the guests, or at least their perception. Another area for improvement is in our sales, promotions, and pricing and advertising. Miscommunication, perhaps, which accounted for nearly 250 complaints. I think the marketing staff that's assembled at this park, as Hamp said, is as fine a group of people as I've met in the 10 or 11 years that I've been within the industry. They are committed, they are dedicated. We have the same goal. They need to bring in the business, and the operations people out there and the service support departments need to enhance and make sure that we bring those people back for repeat business. I think the people in this theater tonight are responsible for standards. Consequently, they're responsible for the 844 complaints. The people in this room tonight are also capable of recommending changes and taking action to reduce complaints and ultimately have an impact on that repeat business. My challenge to you tonight, therefore, is to examine not only what you do, but how do you do it and the manner in which you do it. Please talk to somebody about suggestions you might have on ways to improve our guest service, our level of service, our standards, our relationship and our interaction with our guests. On the issue of capacity, based on our research, extensive research, we know that Santa Clara doesn't have a capacity problem. Given the acceptance of not meeting our minimal standard level, 7% of the operating days, it is estimated that in 1983, we will meet the cost per attraction criteria of not exceeding a 9% ratio of front gate admission price per ride and attraction unit. We can also meet the industry capacity standards, providing minimum utilization of all rides, theaters, and attractions, and providing for no further capacity reductions. Rides and attractions capacity standards for any peak in-park hour of 22,000 should not fall below that 1.3 rides and attractions standard I was talking about. And the attraction cycle time should not exceed 46 minutes. So whereas the retail folks have per capita and sales volume, the ride operations and show operations folks have to be concerned about how long that guest waits in line, how many rides and attractions during that peak hour, during that design day, that we can comfortably accommodate. How do we know whether that guest is getting a good price-value relationship? We know if the guests can ride so many rides, see so many shows at a cost-price relationship that is equivalent to a 9% factor of the front gate. To maintain a 1.3 ride and attraction per hour standard, we must achieve a rides and attraction per hour of 29,831 per hour. That's a lot of rides and shows in any 1 hour. Consequently, we're going to need all the support from our Park Services friends. We need to ensure that our mechanics have a sense of urgency and they are responding to downtime. We have to be given a break in the weather. Our 1983 rides and attraction per hour capacity is 29,000. We therefore should exceed the peak hour standard with some room to spare. I think the concluding remarks that I would make is that in the 3 months that I've had the privilege of being here, I have found both the ride and admissions management and the show operations management responsive to trying to resolve within their own departments some of the guest concerns that we had. Consequently, a few of the things that we are doing new, and certainly this is only the beginning. One of the things that we are now providing is the tram service to and from the hotel. We feel that by providing this service that we can give our guests more accurate information, we can provide better timeliness, and we can also represent the hotel. We are also changing where we service our season pass folks. Last year, my numbers may be wrong, sold somewhere around 5,000 passes. This year we're trying to sell something like 15,000 passes. I'm not sure those guests are any more special than anybody else, but at the same time, we want to be able to get them into the park so they can spend their money without being hassled. What we're doing is selling season passes at all the ticket booths starting Saturday. We're creating a special turnstile, and we're also using a existing facility within inside the park called Matinee Jewelry, or Gulliver's Photos. What was it last year? Thank you. We are going to make that a season pass processing area. It'll be a nice, comfortable spot out of the sunshine for people to wait. We right now don't have a Encyclopedia Britannica sponsor. Consequently, the admissions guest services folks are going to assume the responsibility of providing guest information at that booth. We hope to turn that into a full-service facility: check cashing, lost and found, park information, hotel information, campground information, whatever. We also implemented something new to our guests last Sunday, and it seemed to work quite well, and that's called a rainy day flyer, where we tell the guests when they come into the tolls that we are expecting rain. But because we are expecting rain, we have many fine shops, restaurants, and shows to see while they're here, and because it's raining, we may alter our operating hours. At least what we're doing is being honest with the guest up front. I think those are good examples, as well as the examples that you've heard from all the rest of the departments, to ensure ourselves of a successful season, and I'm very optimistic about our ability to not only meet the plan, but to service our guests in 1983. Thank you very much.
I get to talk before she gets here. As I said earlier, I wanted to have this opportunity to bring all of us together to give you a flavor and a feel about the important, pertinent information from each of the departments. I'd like to exercise, I guess, the right and take the opportunity to make a comment or two regarding each of these departments and some of the commitments that have been made here this evening. The Finance Department, and if you would, I'd like to have the management of the Finance Department, all of you who represent it, stand please so the rest of us can see you. The Finance Department tonight has assured us that if we'll get the money together in our registers, our aprons, and our machines, they'll help collect, count, and account for it. They'll keep score. As Robin said, they'll count the beans. But more than that, they'll also help us analyze the operation of our business, not just the what of what we do, but how we are doing it. I want this Finance Department to be, in every sense of the word, the operational right arm of this park, of each of these departments, and to ensure that we maximize our returns and minimize our liabilities. The Personnel Department, and with the management of the Personnel Department in total, please stand. As Jeff Flynn spoke for you, he assured all of us the support we will get from the various professions this department represents, be it tailoring, designing, and laundering of our garments, straight through to the recruiting of our staffs and the securing of our property. I think we've just begun to see the fruits of our employee relations and our training programs for 1983. Above and beyond, though, what they do as the professionals that they are and the services they provide, the Personnel Department has three very significant challenges on our behalf in 1983. First will be how the people of Great America appear, conduct, and serve and interact with our guests. The guest image and perception of the people side of Great America. I have often said in opportunities that I have had to speak away from this park that 25% of our product is in the unique quality of our people image, our service, and our reputation for friendliness. Secondly, the personnel department will be focusing on how we continue to improve the way we are organized and how we manage our business, what I call the organizational development of our operating systems. And last but not least, they assume the challenge to stop theft at Great America. We must stop contributing among ourselves to the delinquency of minors. Too often we've been our own worst enemies, and I will be looking to this department and to each and every one of you to stop employee thievery at our park. We've come a long way in 8 years. We've worked too hard for the sales that we get to have them ripped off by those people who we pay to work here. The marketing department, and I'd like the marketing department to stand and let us acknowledge you. This is but half of the marketing department. The rest are out selling today. As you heard from Hamp, the basic components are fully assembled. We now need to ensure that they are properly blended, that the right systems are in the right place, and while we're doing that, continue to move towards achieving our 1983 objectives. Our marketing plan has been a long process. It will take us the balance of the year to fully implement it. I believe that we have the best plan, absolutely the best plan possible for this park in 1983. It is well thought out, well targeted, and as I think you saw from the media, well supported. We have very good people out there in the marketplace executing it today. I think it will continue to develop, and we will establish that snowball effect as soon as we can get the rain behind us. Our early returns for the spring are very positive. Even for the fall, business is coming in, and it is very strong. I feel that with the success that we've already had for these spring outings, I guess we could say look out September, October, and perhaps all of November. Park Services Department, would you please stand? I guess in a way, and I hope you'll forgive the parallel, but this department kind of reminds me of the landscape here at Great America. It's been planted over 8 years. It's been grown in both of the parks. It's matured every year, and it has been grown and promoted from within to the point where in 1983 we are realizing the full flowering of those 8 years of growth and development and moving up the chain of command. This is a department promoted from within with a depth of knowledge, an execution, and a pride. This is where the roots, the traditions of our industry are born and continue. This is the department where the craftsmanship of Marriott's Great America is practiced 24 hours a day. I trust and I hope that you, throughout this year, will recognize and appreciate what this department does for you. The Park Operations Department, may we see you. This is a department for various reasons in 1982 that I had a lot of opportunity to become quite involved with. I'm sure it is one where Bob Woodruff hopes I will be a lot less involved in 1983. Park operations is probably works best when you don't even know that it's there, when all is quiet, when there are no concerns, when there are no complaints. However, it is also there as the department that is always there and ready when things aren't right, to turn around the problems that we have in the running of the day-to-day of our business. The department that keeps that guest value and that guest entertainment and that guest service paramount in each of our minds and make sure that we do it right for the guest every day in every way. In 1983, through this department, we're going to ask the guests in this park every day what they thought of their day here at Great America. We're going to ask them to put it in writing. We're going to ask them if we can call them up and talk to them some more after they leave our park. We're going to do everything we can to give them the greatest entertainment experience they had and every opportunity to tell us what we did right and what we did wrong. We want to learn from each guest who comes to Great America in 1983 so the next guest gets that service just a little bit better. I know we're not perfect. Bob has fully documented that fact. And yet in 1983, I think we're going to get pretty darn close, and I'm going to expect the Park Operations Department to lead the way towards getting us to perfection. Retail sales, and may we see you, please. The Retail Sales Department comprises the largest single management organization in our park. It's a department which has been blended together from a variety of sources and a variety of disciplines. They come from disparate professions, arcades and food, merchandise and games, brought together by the common factor of ringing that register, bringing sales from the guests within the park. They're also a department that has been blended by people from our sister park in Chicago, as well as the people who have helped build this park since 1976. In effect, we have brought to Santa Clara, the land of cut, control, many of the experienced professionals from the land of Gurnee, Illinois, the land of 2.5 million, 2.7 million, 2.9 million people in 125 days. I know that with the combination of this management talent, we will save every dollar and squeeze every dime. And also at the same time, we will handle whatever big numbers we can generate in this market. I believe we have blended the finest control operators in the theme park industry with the finest volume operators in the theme park industry, bar none, anywhere in the United States. And I think we are going to deliver to the guests, whether it be 4 or 40,000, the kind of service that the guest should expect to receive in a special place like Marriott's Great America. And we're going to give to the Marriott Corporation what it should expect to receive for its $125+ million investment. These are the departments. These are your compatriots. I hope they're your associates. I hope by the conclusion of 1983 they'll be your friends. I wanted you to get some pertinent information, yes. We wanted you to hopefully get to know one another a little better. And sometime, if we get out of here before midnight, we'll give you that opportunity. Gee, those guys are long-winded, aren't they? It's a good thing they've got good things to say, right? But most importantly, I wanted to give you a sense of the potential we have to make this park the success it is destined to be. I want you to feel confident that we, the management of this park, do have our collective acts together, that we do know not only what to do, but more importantly, we know how to do it. We were tested by fire in 1982. I think the steel is mature and ready to withstand any challenge in 1983. I hope that if you have developed from this evening, that level of confidence that we wanted to give to you, that you will translate this confidence in our ability to do in '83 what we must, and to take that confidence to your people, to your employees, hopefully to your guests. To your employees, I hope you will be firm but fair managers. For your park, I hope you will be conscientious and control conscious of your product. And I trust that each and every one of you will be single-minded in your focus on serving each and every guest that we get to the best of your ability. Most of all, I want you to feel confident that you can talk to the guest at Great America. I'd like to see every one of us spend time talking to the people who come to our park. Ask them about their day, their experience. And when you do so, feel confident that they will say it was a great Great America Day. That they will say that they've enjoyed themselves beyond their expectations. And when they say that to you, I hope you'll say, like our friend Alan Hamelish, or whatever his name is, Suzanne Summers' husband. That part I got right. But if they have said they've had a great day here at Great America, and you've talked to them, and they've appreciated their experience, tell them to tell a friend. Tell them to tell their neighbors. Tell them to come back and see us again, and bring people with them. Lots of people with them. Their whole neighborhood with them. We'll give them a whistle if they want. With your help, with your confidence, with your dedication, we're going to make Great America great in 1983. We don't have to do it all by ourselves. We've also got a few other friends to help us, and we've invited a couple of them here this evening to wind up our program. Thank you very much for your attention, and let's turn our attention to some more of the friends who hopefully are going to help us make it in 1983. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Golden Carrot Casino is proud to announce that the man is here, Mr. Showbiz himself, Daffy Davis Jr.
Hey, Daffy, great to see you.
Yeah, man, give me some skin.
Say, Doc, what are you going to do for us today?
You call it something. I can do anything but fire.
Well, what do you mean?
Who can take the sunrise? Yeah, man. Sprinkle it with dew. Hey, how do you like my dew? Cover it with chocolate and a miracle or two. Oh, the Candyman can. Yes, sir. The Candyman can. The Candyman can, 'cause he mixes it with love and makes the world taste good. Who can take a rainbow, wrap it in a sigh, soak it in the sun and make a strawberry pie? The Candyman can. I can do it, you know why? The Candyman can, 'cause he mixes it with love and makes the world taste good. Candyman
lollipop.
Kids all love the candy man.
Maybe try a lemon drop.
Get to know the candy man.
A caramel or a baby Ruth.
And you love the candy man.
I'm gonna feed your sweet tooth.
The candy man.
And fill up a candy dish.
He's the happy candy man.
With peppermints and licorice.
No one left the candy man.
Chocolate cards and bubble gum.